We have a problem in this country. It's called Muslims. We know our current president is one. Right. You know he's not even an American.
We need this
birth
question.
certificate,
This is the
man.
first question.
But anyway, we have training camps growing where they want to kill us. Mm-hmm. That's my question. When can we get rid of it?
We're going to be looking at a lot of different things.
Am I morally obligated to defend the president every time somebody says something bad or controversial about him? I don't think so, right?
Donald Trump last night defending how he handled that question at a New Hampshire town hall earlier in the week. And it's time now for our Sunday group. Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume, USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers, GOP strategist Karl Rove, and Charles Lane from the Washington Post. Well, Trump's rivals jumped all over him when it came to the way he handled or didn't handle the question in that town hall meeting, and Hillary Clinton really let him have it. Here she is.
He should have, from the beginning, repudiated that kind of rhetoric, that level of hatefulness in a questioner in an audience that he was appearing before.
Britt, given that, and you can see here in this recent poll, 43% of Republicans say they think that Mr. Obama is a Muslim. Will this whole incident hurt Donald Trump or not?
Well, it certainly isn't going to hurt him with the hardcore supporters who are backing him now, and partly because of the idea that you see reflected in the poll you just showed. It will, however, I think, make some people look at him and say, you know, the guy is gaffe prone. This is he feeds ammunition to the other party and to his critics. And if he were nominated, there'd be no end to this. So it may raise doubts about him as a general election candidate, but I think the people who are supporting him now are not going to be daunted by this.
We asked you for questions for the panel, and we got this on Facebook from Richard McElrath. He writes, do you think Trump fever's finally broken, or do you anticipate he'll continue to suck all the oxygen out of the Republican race? There's some news this morning. Let's put up this new CNN poll. It shows that Trump is at 24%, Fiorina now in second place at 15%. That is an 8% drop from a couple of weeks ago for Trump and a 12% rise for Fiorina from a couple of weeks ago. Karl, as I ask you this question, I should point out that Trump routinely calls you a total loser, but...
No, please, get it right. I'm a total, complete, incompetent jerk.
Okay.
Get it right.
Whatever.
Get it right.
But whatever, between the debate and the town hall incident, do you think that the Trump trajectory has changed at all? How do you answer Richard, and how do you react to that poll?
Well, look, I think it basically began several weeks ago when he made his original comments about Carly Fiorina saying, look at that face, the interview that's going to be printed in Rolling Stone. I think it sort of began to peak then. And we do have some evidence in this poll, and there's some evidence in private polling that he has peaked and begun to decline. If you look at it from the month ago in CNN, he's down 6. Interestingly, also, Ben Carson is down 5, and the person who went up more than anybody else is Carly Fiorina at 12, followed by Marco Rubio, who's gained 8 points in the last month. So yeah, I do think it's begun to fade. He's not going to disappear. He's going to continue to be a presence. And let's just remember, we're at the beginning of this process. As of now, in 2012, Rick Perry was ahead at 29.9%. And we had 7 more leads before it finally settled on Mitt Romney on February 28th of 2012. And that's when the voting began in January. Now it's going to begin, voting is going to begin in February. If we have the same kind of situation where the lead goes back and forth, it's going to be March or April before we settle on the nominee.
There are other candidates in the race besides Donald Trump and Carly Fiorina. A lot of people thought that Marco Rubio had a good debate, and as Karl mentioned, it's gone up in the polls. A lot of people thought Chris Christie had a good debate, and Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz also had their moments. Chuck, your sense of where this Republican race is now?
Well, and one of the things that's interesting about the numbers Karl just referred to is they're still showing between 40 and 50% of the Republican electorate favoring one or the other of the non-political outsider, people who haven't been in office before. And then you have the group, the Rubio, the Bush, the Kasich, Christie coming up there. What strikes me as interesting is that Marco Rubio has managed to come through both of these debates without doing any harm to himself and a little bit of good. And I think he is very well positioned to be the person, if anyone, who sort of rises out of the pack when the fascination with the outsiders fades, as I think it inevitably will, certainly in the case of Trump. And so Jeb is really challenged right now. He's sort of, he's not fitting in anywhere in particular, and it seems to me that Rubio is the one who is very well positioned right now to pick up the pieces.
Meanwhile, there's a Democratic race as well, and in that race, Kirsten, Bernie Sanders is leading solidly, routinely in polls in New Hampshire, winning in some of the polls in Iowa, routinely getting much bigger crowds than Clinton is. How much trouble is Clinton in, and what's the latest on Joe Biden and whether he's going to enter the race or not?
Well, it seems to be, I mean, I think people are feeling more and more that it's more likely that Joe Biden's going to get in than not get in, but the sense is that he's got to do it pretty soon because it's not just, there are a lot of filing deadlines that are coming up, and I think it was Brookings that did some study that showed that if he waited till the end of December, he would forfeit half of the delegates, and so the rolling deadline starting in October, so he would have to get in. I think people are very concerned about Hillary Clinton, and that would be why there's this push for Joe Biden. There were 50 Democrats who sent this letter to Biden encouraging him to get in. And Sanders is very strong, but he's very strong in New Hampshire and Iowa, these early states. But I think what a lot of people feel is that once he starts moving into the South, it's not as friendly a territory to him. It's much friendlier to Hillary Clinton. And so I think that there's a question of whether he's going to be able to expand that into outside of these more predominantly white liberal areas.
Is the concern about Clinton specifically to the email scandal and the some would say ham-handed way she's handled it, or is it just more of a general sense that she's not exciting people?
I think it's both. I think the email issue was the turning point, and I think it's where people saw that she is, first of all, the campaign and her ultimately did not handle that issue properly. They let it get out of control and do a lot of damage. And it seems to a certain extent that she's not as up to the task as people were expecting. It's a little bit of a rerun of 2008, where she doesn't seem to be able to respond to questions quickly. There's this sort of imperial attitude, that she doesn't think she has to answer these questions, and people aren't enthusiastic about her. I think that's another issue. People are concerned that she's going to be the first woman president, presumably. People should be really excited.
Yeah, very interesting. She spoke, I guess, on Friday at the University of New Hampshire. Small room, 300 people. Bernie Sanders speaking there on Monday. Already more than 1,000 people have signed up for that. So there's just an enthusiasm gap. All right, we have to take a break. We'll see you all a little later.